So you want to know the absolute best places in all of Florida for families to live? Stick around. Over the next few minutes, we're going to break down exactly that. Hey, I'm Adam Hancock. I have a real estate group in downtown Sarasota, Florida, and today I wanted to break down a really important subject: the best family-centric places to live in the entire state of Florida. I've been wanting to do this one for a while, and the way that I kind of formulated the breakdown of it was twofold. The first being just minimum criteria. So what I deemed really, really important to a family, things like housing variety, quality of life especially, outdoor recreation, things to do, clubs, all this kind of stuff. School districts, highly rated school districts, not just private, so public too, and all the way from kindergarten through vocational if you need it, preschool included. And then finally, safety. So that's there's a minimum level of criteria that I based on picking these areas, and it needed to be very abundant and needed to be very attractive overall compared to all of them. And the second thing I think is really important is where they're based in the state, right? So like if you want to move to Sarasota, there's a certain version if you want to move to other parts in the state. But if you have ties to an area because of a job or something like that, like ties to a different coast in Florida, I wanted to give a version of that. So this is going to be spread around the state, but I thought would be like, if you're in this part of the state, it would be equal to this part of the state in a lot of the capacity. So that's the second part. So it gives you options based on where you're living. It's all around the state. I hope you guys enjoy. Please don't forget to subscribe, and let's get going. Okay, so number one on this list in no particular order, and my current standing location, Lakewood Ranch, Florida. So let's talk location first. Lakewood Ranch is going to be a suburb of Sarasota, Florida. Although most of it's in Manatee County, technically, these two counties are kind of synonymous in the way you're going to view the area. It's just location. So where it's based is northeast of town. The closest being about 10 miles and the furthest being about 25 miles or so. It's a pretty large area. It's 33,000 square feet. But that's kind of what you're going to do, is you're going to view Sarasota as the downtown and the coastal proximity. So this sits just northeast to the interstate in a majority of the facet, and this is downtown Lakewood Ranch where we stand here. And we're going to kind of talk about quality of life and some of the other things going on here as we move about. Okay, so quality of life wise, Lakewood Ranch is very commonly known as the #1 multi-generational community in the entire United States, and there's several reasons why. I think the quality of life is one of the most unique in Florida, i.e. when I leave my own neighborhood that's nice and has amenities, it offers arguably the most outside of that community than anywhere in the state, in my opinion. So I want to kind of roll down this and what I would deem important, and that be first, let's talk outdoor recreation. So what's interesting about Lakewood Ranch is over half the acreage was set aside for conservations, parks, trails. There's a lot of options there. So there's always kind of like a way to stay active in and out of the neighborhoods. It's very smartly planned, and there's a lot of public parks and that easily accessible if it's not in your neighborhood. Number two, just as far as activities, happenings, clubs, this kind of thing, downtown Lakewood Ranch is a good example because there's always there's farmers markets, there's holiday related like Boo Fest and egg extravaganzas and stuff like that. The new Waterside Place is going to have a lot of that kind of thing going on. There's First Friday here where they block off the streets and that kind of thing. And then there's a myriad of women's clubs and kids clubs, and there's always something active there because of the sheer amount of kids and that kind of thing that live here. And then sports wise, you have soccer shots that is local. You have the huge Greenbrook facility that's like a world-renowned soccer complex. You have baseball fields. You have pickleball. You have tennis. There's a big YMCA here as well. And then finally, I think another important factor is what outside of the suburb does the city have to offer? And Sarasota is just kind of goes without saying. It's known as the Cultural Coast. There's a myriad of museums. You have the Ringling Museum. You have world-class beaches. You have Lido, Longboat, Anna Maria Island, Siesta Key, you have Venice. And downtown Sarasota is lovely. You have downtown Venice. So I think it offers a ton of stuff when you leave the community itself. So I think overall, one of the most compelling quality of life in the entire state. Okay, now I want to talk about housing. So Lakewood Ranch, Florida offers a huge variety of housing. To me, it's one of the most interesting spots in the entire state just because of how smart it's set up. So there's about 30 plus communities at the moment. About 20 of those you can build in actively, where you have a myriad of resale type of stuff. And the whole entire community was built post 95. So it's just set up smarter. The roads are in grids. It's easier in and out to get to places. There's communities that are 20 minutes from town. There's communities that are 45 minutes from town. But it offers a huge variety in a very inclusive way that it feels like you get a little bit more when you leave the community as far as the overall environment instead of like a standalone. As far as the house types, there's also a huge variety of house types. So you have the single families like this. So we're actually at one of the homes by town models, one of my favorites, called the Tideland, the Islander, depending on the upstairs. But we're in the lower part of Waterside in Lakewood Ranch, which is one of the closest locations in the entire place to downtown Sarasota. But this would be your kind of like bigger single family. You have a lot of stuff like this, right? So there's 2 stories, there's single stories, we're going to kind of maneuver our way through this house because it's cool. And then we also have townhomes, we have villas. One of my favorite kind of models at the moment is these split level villas that kind of live like single families but more affordable. And what this is going to do, because of the variety of housing, we'll head out so you can see the pool here. The variety of housing, what it's going to give you is also an array of price points. So I know that's a sensitive subject at the moment, but when it boils down, just not romantically about it, you do have not as cheap as it used to be here, but about a little over $300K kind of starting point. That would be much more in like a villa townhome on average. And then you're all the way up to like $5 million in the Lake Club, like where Mick Jagger just bought. So you have a variety when it comes to that as well. And then just kind of like where they're situated is cool too. So in this community, it's very unique. That's why we wanted to start here, is because you have bodies of water like this, which is like this community has a lake called Kingfisher Lake, where it takes you all the way over to this amenity center. It has water taxis, all this kind of stuff. But you have stuff like this, this is super unique to like suburban neighborhoods in Florida. And then like your regular neighborhood, you have like these regular conservation kind of ponds. So you can do that. You could back up to just conservation. You have deeded golf course communities. So you have also like a pretty unique type of land and spacing between the houses. Just so you have all this variety you could tackle based on what you're sensitive to. And that's what these master plan communities try to do, is provide something for everyone. And then finally, like with master plan, unfortunately, comes fees. So finally, what you have is CDD and HOA. So a lot of people ask this kind of stuff. And what that's basically going to do is CDD is tied really to the development of the land. So what you're looking at is like take about 1.2% of the assessed value of your house, which is 87%, and then add about $1,500 to $2,000 a year. And that would be like a CDD annual tax rate. So the simplest way is if you have $1 million house, take about 10 grand plus about 2 grand as your annual taxes. That's how CDD works. It's tied into the development of the land. Can't get away from it. That's how they build the infrastructure, that kind of thing. But if you take your annual taxes based on where you live now, it might not be the worst thing. So I know people are just kind of against them, but really think about it as a total cost of ownership. And then HOA is also for what you get in the current level of amenities, which we're going to go check out in a second. A lot of them are like $250 to $400 a month if you don't have golf. And you're talking like world-class pools, tot lots, restaurants, all this kind of thing that I'm going to show you in person. But all in all, I think Lakewood Ranch offers extremely unique housing opportunity, and the most unique as far as when you leave the community, what else we have to offer. And that's kind of my piece on that. Okay, let's talk amenities real quick. So I brought you guys out to the amenity center at Lake House Cove in Waterside and Lakewood Ranch because of the uniqueness. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But when I talk about amenities, what I'm talking about is neighborhood specific. So the thing about amenities on new construction or suburban areas at the moment is they're getting pretty commoditized as far as like, it's hard to find a new community now that doesn't have pretty unbelievable amenities. So the way to really look at them and the way they're positioning them in master plan communities is really based on style and personal need. So that's how I'd really focus on it. So for instance, this one has like, you got like a commercial gym at this one that overlooks the water. A lot of other ones, even the other side of this community, has like more of like a regular, not like a hotel gym, but it's a regular gym, right? So if you have like real gym, LA Fitness type of needs, you might need higher level of dumbbells or some other need, right? And then, but you know, all of them are gonna have this kind of resort style pool. This one has a tot lot on the other side, so a lot of them are having these tot lots, either for grandkids or your direct family. And then this one has a green space here, which is cool. So like outdoor yoga, this kind of thing. So a lot of these have full-time activity directors at the moment. So what they're gonna do is, now this one doesn't have a restaurant, but you have all this space where they're gonna plan events and you're gonna have food trucks and all this kind of thing. But from like a unique perspective, this one has a boathouse that stores paddleboards and kayaks over here. Only one I've ever seen. And then a water taxi goes from that. So this would be one where you're really like, this might offer certain things that nowhere else offers. So beyond location, it's really unique. But then you, on the other side, you might have like, I love to golf, right? So Esplanade at Azario in Lakewood Ranch, which would be 40 minutes from the beach versus this being 20. So you got kind of a sacrifice, but what you get is you get deeded golf into your title. You get a bar at the pool, the Bahama Bar. This one doesn't have that. You get a full commercial restaurant on site and a couple different eating places on site. So you kind of take that, all of that, and that's how I would really look at it, because it's not really, do I have amenities anymore? It's really like, if you get minute, it's based on, would it be worth me taking a sacrifice of location to get golf, or would I rather come here closer, but it's not the gym I want, that kind of thing. So that's how I look at it. But anyway, this is kind of a cool way to show it, because this one's really unique to Florida, and that's what I'd say about amenities. Okay, now I want to talk about a really, really important one for families, the school districts. So a couple unique things about Lakewood Ranch. One, it's so new that it's just a little smarter, like I mentioned previously. So there was land set aside just for the school, where the schools are based, the variety of, like, if you live here versus here, the variety of what schools you can attend, and then the overall like consistency of ratings. And then you have the whole life cycle of schools here. So I think there's a ton of primary, there's pre-primary, and then you have over 9 campuses of secondary education too. So you could literally like take the whole thing through, a bunch of vocational type of schools. So if we kind of started at the lowest level, so kids 4 and under, preschool daycare, there's over 15 options just in the local area. A lot of these are kind of private, charter-based too when you get to that age, so you could really attend if you don't live right in the vicinity. But that's including Goddard and Primrose, which are kind of popular franchise type based schools. So for the, you know, where most people are concerned is that kind of the average age, the primary level, elementary through high. What's unique about this is you have just the being able to maintain an 8 out of 10 or higher from elementary all the way through high is actually somewhat tough to attain across the state. So a lot of them have really nice elementary schools, maybe middle's okay, and then it drops off somewhere. So I know people struggle with that of like, we can't live here the whole time if I have like a 4th grader. Can't take it all the way through. So I think that's really important, including McNeil, Gullet, and Lakewood Ranch High, which a lot of people view as really high in Florida as a whole. And then finally, if you're kind of more on like a waterside or something where you're lower and closer to town, where the schools might not be as attractive overall, you have stuff like Outdoor Academy here, which was in my district in high school, which is a you know, just as private school as it gets. Great location though, and you know, a lot of things going on there. But if that's kind of your style, you do have those options as well. And then finally, even you have like a charter private free school called Pinnacle, where my son's actually attending. So that's an option too. So a lot of options here. Overall, the nutshell is really highly rated. And then just location wise, I mean, even this private school, you have a full on polo grounds across the street that literally still do polo matches. So just stuff like that with master plan. I know that a lot of people don't like the bubble, but there's a lot of really cool things they can do by building an entire city that's planned in advance. Okay, lastly, for Lakewood Ranch, Florida, I wanted to talk about safety. Very important. So beyond the gated communities, when it was built, where it's based, all the insulation of why it's safe. According to the statistics, there's 45% lower violent crime on average than the average US city. And then property crime wise, 75% lower than the average US city. So I think that's really important. And now I want to talk about the game plan for the rest of the video. Okay, so what we're going to do now is, I'm obviously based here in the Sarasota greater area primarily, but what I wanted to do is that I wanted to, other areas I'm familiar with that I think would fit very similar criteria if you don't live here, I wanted to provide other options. So we're going to move on. We're going to talk about 4 other areas in depth that I think would have similar benefits, and I hope you guys enjoy. Okay, number 2 on this list, Nocatee, Florida. So Nocatee would definitely be for those of you who really have ties to the Atlantic coast of Florida, kind of the Jacksonville greater area. So where this is situated, this would be really similar to Lakewood Ranch in my mind as far as master plan. It's as master plan as it gets. The second fastest growing master plan community in the entire United States. Covers about 14,000 acres, and where it sits is about 18 miles from downtown Jacksonville. It's in Ponte Vedra in St. Johns County. And then it's about 26 miles from St. Augustine. So I think the most unique thing here, other than like kind of the type of suburb you have, is that this one is kind of your coastal solution. This is a coastal-based suburb where Lakewood Ranch and a lot of traditional suburbs are inland. So I think that's rather unique. Okay, let's talk quality of life. So Nocatee in my mind is really kind of a good example of what the best of Northwest Florida provides. So I think of Northwest Florida as very nature-centric, and Nocatee is a great example of that. You have parks, trails, a great place just for an overall active lifestyle. There's dog parks, there's fitness, there's green space, there's a lot going on there. You have a splash pad with a zip line in one of the communities. You have fitness trails, kayaking, and more. So I think it's a really good spot if that's kind of what your family enjoys. As far as like clubs, activities, happenings beyond outdoor recreation, tons going on. So similar to Lakewood Ranch in master plan suburban kind of land, you have always kind of these activities that cater to different age groups and lifestyles. So there's farmer markets, there's comedy shows, there's sports watch parties, there's movie nights, there's drive-ins, there's all this kind of thing. The other cool thing about Nocatee is they have this town center that kind of reminds me of like what a Waterside or a downtown Lakewood Ranch would be in Sarasota, and that it's got shops, restaurants, all this kind of thing. So those kind of spaces a lot of time create a good gathering space. So if you're concerned about like outside of your neighborhood, what kind of creates people getting together so you can meet people, I think that's a great option there. And then Nocatee also uniquely, they're very kind of vested in the community when it was built. Nocatee itself provides a bunch of like kind of discounts and partner type of referral arrangements throughout town with theaters and restaurants and theme parks and that kind of thing. So overall, in a nutshell, I think quality of life wise in the Nocatee area specifically is very abundant. Okay, lastly on quality of life, in the Nocatee area in Florida. I think first off, let's talk about the area as a whole outside of just the master plan community. That's always very important with this type of city. So first off, the seaside aspect I think is very underrated. Like these large suburban areas are built with they need a large amount of land, right? It's 14,000 acres. The chance that that's seaside and not eastern or western in a big, large kind of suburban area is usually unique. So I think the first off, seaside Ponte Vedra is unique in itself. So beaches, beach-based dining, that kind of lifestyle with suburban housing, I love the idea of. And then also like Jacksonville itself has, that area itself has world-class golf. So right in the community of TPC Sawgrass. So I know a lot of kind of like professional golfers spend their downtime there because of those reasons. Beyond that, I think Jacksonville city as a whole. So Jacksonville is the largest city by land area in the contiguous United States. It's a huge metro. So you have your traditional kind of hustle muscle of downtown if you enjoy that. A lot of work options. You have skyscrapers and all that kind of stuff, right? Restaurants, first of everything, you know, all the benefits to a large city if you don't mind the drawbacks of that kind of thing. And then finally, the St. Augustine proximity I think is cool and unique. So having St. Augustine so close by, it's considered the ancient city of Florida, but it's very quaint, great spot to kind of relax, be the opposite of like a large kind of metro city. I think that's also interesting. So I think that kind of rounds out that area as a whole. And when you leave your individual neighborhood, I think it's nice to have that much stuff close by. Okay, now let's talk housing options in Nocatee, Florida. So Nocatee's got about 20 plus communities. So similar to a Lakewood Ranch vibe, you have a wide range of housing. You have luxury housing, you have townhomes, villas, apartments, single families abound. Based on if you need 4 upstairs bedrooms or you want a 2,900 square foot single family, it has all of it. Overall, you got similar players. You have Toll Brothers, David Weekley, it's mixed use builder. Toll Brothers, David Weekley, you have Del Webb, so you're 55 and up. So similar type of stuff, right, as a lot of areas in Florida, right? So very similar there. Price ranges, you got about a 300 to 1 million plus kind of buy, but that's going to be very similar in most areas, really. This one on average might be slightly cheaper than our number one. It's just on total average pricing, so something to think about. As far as the neighborhoods themselves, you got parks, playgrounds, splash pads, dog parks. You have community pools. You have athletic fields. So again, this is the amenities in a neighborhood. These kind of communities that are especially newer, they're going kid-centric and they're going family-centric. So the best way to look at that would really be to say, like, okay, they're never going to tell you, like, a lot of people ask me, how many kids, like, what's the demographic of this neighborhood, right? There's no one's ever going to tell you that. But if you look how they position the neighborhoods, right? The $1.5 million luxury neighborhood, if the minimum price is $800 and, you know, there's no splash pad and there's like a, you know, look at the amenities, and that's very telling. And just think about the average person that could afford the housing and look at how they position the amenities. That tells you a lot about how to pick between a neighborhood. And then fee-wise, you know, this second one on our list is very similar to Lakewood Ranch in it's very new and it's very master planned. So CDDs and HOAs are going to be a part of the thing. So just equate for you know, 100 to 300 to 400 a month, just depending on what you're working with. And CDDs are typically based on square footage, but you have like a 1,400 to 3,000 square foot average, and you'll probably be okay. So that kind of sums up housing in this part of Florida. Okay, sorry, we had to improvise a little bit. We're running from the rain. But the next thing I want to talk about was school districts. So this part of Florida is especially relevant for the school district. So most of the Nocatee new build community options are located in St. Johns County, which is the #1 overall school district in Florida as a whole, public school district. So that's a huge win of why this made this list one. And then there's a myriad of options, right? There's 6+ preschool options that you could go to. There's many 9 out of 10 public schools, including Valley Ridge, Palm Valley, and Nice. And from what I understand, when they first did the land, there was actually land set aside for 5 middle schools and or 5 elementary schools and 1 middle school. And then you have private school options too, like St. Joseph, St. John's, and Episcopal. But overall, one of the best school district in Florida, and another great reason for families to end up in Nocatee. Okay, and our last section for Nocatee, Florida, the safety aspect. So Nocatee as a whole ranks very high. 65% below the U.S. average in both property and violent crime. Overall, extremely safe in this corridor where they would consider Nocatee local. I know it's a big metro. I know people are going to say things about Jacksonville and that kind of thing. But overall, Nocatee is very highly rated for a safety aspect. Okay, number 3 on this list, Fishhawk, Florida. So Fishhawk is the option of suburb for families if you're based in the Tampa Bay area. 60 miles north of our first option, about 5 hours east of our second option. And this is basically in Hillsborough County, just east of Tampa Bay, kind of like Valrico, east of Riverview. And you have about 17 square miles of area total, and it's 20 miles of, it's raining. It's 20 miles of downtown Tampa and 14 miles from the bay. And then the beaches in this part of Florida are actually on Pinellas County, so you got a little bit of a trek there. But overall, very interesting spot. We're gonna move because it's raining. We'll see you on the next one. Okay, we have dodged the rain. We have found a roof, and we're gonna continue. So I will finish this video. So Fishhawk, let's talk quality of life. So we talked about location east of Tampa. Quality of life is interesting as well. So I think this is really kind of a nature-centric gem of Hillsborough County, rather. So there was a lot of care that was taken in my mind of like how they developed the land, and it was a very wooded area previously. It's kind of like pretty eastern and very suburban. So what they were able to do was, one, it's the largest green community in the entire vicinity, which is cool. But they also they were smart about kind of the trails and the roads. So there's over 25 miles of trails that kind of weave in and out of the communities, and it provides like biking opportunities and walking opportunities. And it's just very nice, like the way they lay houses around communities that are based like that. It just provides like kind of a better aesthetic in my mind. And then they also took some care to create communities because of the variety of communities in there. There's communities with wide streets and Spanish moss, and there's oak, and there's people that want like mature landscaping versus like just platted new construction land. I believe they provided a very nice look overall, which I like, and that's what you can do in a suburban area. So like the coastal stuff has its place, but the big swaths of land suburbanly, they can provide, they can build whatever the hell they want, basically. So that's what they did there. And then as far as like events and happenings and that kind of thing, on the quality of life perspective beyond outdoor recreation stuff, this one also has kind of a, it's called Park Square. So it's kind of a town center. So our first 3, Fishhawk, Nocatee, and Lakewood Ranch are all kind of master plan concepts. So with those, rather than going to town for your stuff, they kind of build its own town. So that town center has shopping, and it kind of tries to solve the urban cool part of an urban district as far as shopping and walkability and that kind of thing. So they have one right in there, and then with those they layer community events basically, so like the same type of deal, right? Fitness related events and yoga and farmers markets, because there's quiet streets that they can block off and do all these kind of things with. And then the area as a whole is very interesting. So I think going east of Tampa in order to get suburban housing without, and again, this is your community here is to give access to the Tampa Bay area. So if you have ties to needing, a lot of people need to work in Tampa, but they choose to live in the suburbs because they don't want city living and they don't like the house they get and that kind of thing. This one's one of the most attractive directions to go. East of Tampa provides pretty easy access into Tampa, but also you don't lose a lot of things, and you save a lot of dollars basically versus like some other versions in different areas. So there's you basically you have the Tampa airport there. You have, for sports fans, you have the Raymond James Stadium with the Bucks. You have the Yankees spring training. You have the Phillies in Clearwater. You have the Rays in St. Pete. You have, and then kid-centric amenities in Tampa. That's one of the things that me and my wife miss the most. We moved just back to Sarasota in 2019, and one of the things we miss the most is just it's chock full of stuff for kids. So you have the Lowry Park Zoo, you have the Florida Aquarium in Channelside, you have museums, you have Busch Gardens, the theme park. You have all this kind of stuff in this kind of a similar area. So there's a lot of stuff for kids to do. So the city as a whole, and then the beaches in Pinellas County. So to me, if you're going that direction, I think your dollar goes a long way. I think the quality of life is very nice in Fishhawk, and a lot of housing options. Okay, let's talk housing options in Fishhawk, Florida. So here you're going to have, I'm not going to belabor this too much, you're going to have a lot of the same with the first couple master plans. So you're going to have a variety of housings from single family, townhomes, villas, you're going to have apartments, you're going to have all that kind of stuff. They flank it with options for everybody. And then you have a lot of Tampa-based builders they kind of travel around. So you have you're going to see a lot of the similar names. You're going to see a lot of similar qualities. So you kind of hover on that new construction level of building. Fishhawk's basically closed out. So your access there is going to be a lot of resale. And then what I've been seeing as far as price goes, in my opinion, Hillsborough County is pretty much cheaper on most aspects on average than Sarasota Manatee County, well, Sarasota County mostly, but so you have as low as like $200K on certain stuff to under $2 million on other stuff. So a couple opportunities could be kind of these buckets you travel with. A lot of this stuff's going to relate to the city you need access to, right? You're not going to just say, I'll go to Tampa because it's cheaper. It's just so different. So you kind of want to do that, but you will have like similar, like say like the person that's looking at a single family at a certain range with kids in good school zones and need a certain amount of rooms. It might be like a 500 thing versus a 700 thing, or so like there's some certain buckets that might make a lot of sense where there's like a break-even point. And then same with luxury housing. So if you like need a little bit more or want more, or whatever, you want like the mecca of that luxury community, where Lakewood Ranch might be like a lake club, which is kind of intense compared to like maybe the luxury version of this. So that could be another opportunity of like just saying at what lane or what like kind of what kind of pricing bucket would I have a huge advantage in a certain area. So that's something to think about too. So that's kind of the main housing structure. Amenities, you're going to have a lot of the same, right? So this is a little bit more nature centric in my opinion, but you have the resort style pools. There's tennis, there's basketball, there's softball, baseball, soccer, fishing, everything, right? Pickleball, tennis. And then the other, I guess, difference in some of the other areas is that the HOAs, I saw a lot of HOAs under $100, which that's kind of hard to find these days. It's a little bit more mature, right? So like Lakewood Ranch isn't even close to built out. Fishhawk's basically, if you go to their website right now, they're closed out. But $60, $97 HOAs is very, very low for amenity-based communities. And then it's just, again, like total cost of ownership might be slightly cheaper overall. So that's one thing to consider with Fishhawk housing. Okay, let's talk school districts in number 3, Fishhawk, Florida. So this is definitely going to be on the higher end of schools from a public standpoint in the Tampa area. So a lot of the problems you're going to run into with like really hot areas in Florida, if they're city-based, is like the public school districts kind of get shaky. That's any urban district, it's just hard to control. They're older, that kind of thing. So like Tampa's the same, St. Pete's the same. But you go to the suburbs, like because of the way they built it out and controlled it, overall there are a lot of A-rated schools out there. and then also the trifecta of elementary through high school, so all of your primary years being a similar ratings, I think is very important. That's something I mentioned earlier in the video. It's kind of hard to find that line of like both my elementary, middle, and my high are all kind of similar ratings, so I could kind of settle in, and my kids' majority of school years are spent in the same house. That's something this area provides. So if we took it from like the younger kids to the older, so preschool daycare, there's 6+ options in the area. So you're gonna have a myriad of like the private, the religious-based, and the kind of charter type of stuff. The public schools, many 9 out of 10. So you have Stower, you have Barrington, you have Newsome, and then private schools, you have schools like St. Stephen's, Valrico, so there's options there. Again, number 1, 2, and 3 are very similar, so that's why I think it's really important of like, if I said I'm going to live in Tampa or Sarasota or the Atlantic Coast, Northern, these would be similar options. So it gives you kind of like, it makes sense, right? Like what they're trying to do is similar in all these areas. It's an offshoot of a major city that provides things that city will not provide at costs that you can't obtain in a closer vicinity. And they're trying to provide it in a way that it's not like too far of a stretch. It's not so far out of town. So this is another area that provides that. And then finally, safety again. So again, I mentioned that I keep that criteria at a certain minimum to even make this list. Fishhawk, Florida, not Tampa, Fishhawk, Florida as an area, the couple zip codes. The latest statistics had it 59% lower than the US average on both violent crime and property crime. So overall, I think Fishhawk, Florida is a very, very interesting option for the Tampa Bay area. Let's hop to number 4. Okay, number 4 on our list of some of the best places in the entire state of Florida for families to end up, Gulf Breeze. So Gulf Breeze locationally is a suburb of Pensacola, Florida, so we're going all the way to the Panhandle here. This one's actually near and dear to my heart. I went to college, and me and my wife both graduated from University of West Florida in Pensacola. My wife also graduated from high school in Gulf Breeze, Florida, and we did not meet there. We ended up back there, but did not meet there, just kind of an anomaly in that sense. But this is a unique place. So it's located in Santa Rosa County. There's only 7,000 people, and this is where the first 3 were just master plan suburbs. Where we're gonna go into 4 and 5, or we're gonna go into like more of the areas, like kind of cities, but like offshoots of major cities, but just more areas, not just a master plan suburb. This one's only 7 miles from downtown Pensacola and just 2 miles from the beach. And it's really like a sleepy beach town. It really feels that way. I lived there for 4 years. It's very Navy-centric. I think Eglin Air Force Base is right there. And overall, just a great place to raise a family, and especially if you enjoy that coastal lifestyle vibe. Let's talk quality of life. Gulf Breeze, Florida, the way that I think you're in that town and the way you enjoy the quality of life is to really utilize what the town is. It's seashore, Gulf based, and that's the best way to kind of utilize. Everything's going to kind of surround that type of vibe. So one thing is the national seashores right there. So in Santa Rosa County, you have snorkeling, you have hiking, you have bird watching. It's a great area for that. You have terrific seafood for the same reasons because of the location of that town. You have the Pensacola Beach Pier, you have nature trails, you have all the aviation related stuff, you have the Blue Angels, and then shopping kind of downtown. You have Palafox, which is a district with art and entertainment. It's actually ranked as like, it's come up on a lot of like rankings as one of the most trendy districts in the entire United States, so kind of cool there. And then like for kids especially, you have a huge zoo there. The 50-acre Gulf Breeze Zoo has tons of animals, but I think in this area, really like in a nutshell, again, just to repeat, is that it's a town, that part of Florida is generally sleepier. It is way the hell over in Florida. It's a couple hours from Tallahassee, but it almost feels like you're in Alabama. So you end up there because you're really seeking that, one, a slightly more affordable way to have coastal proximity, but also if you really want that kind of overall environment, you don't need the hustle and bustle, I think Gulf Breeze is a fantastic place to achieve that. Okay, let's talk housing in Gulf Breeze, Florida. So the way I divide the city is probably Gulf Breeze City, and then Gulf Breeze proper, and you're gonna have a mix of housing in single family, condos, you're gonna have waterfront stuff, so really anything to fit your lifestyle. And then price range wise, Gulf Breeze can actually on average of Florida get quite high. The Panhandle is actually somewhat affordable. Gulf Breeze is a pocket though. Actually, how you get to the beach, Pensacola Beach, when you think of that, is actually through Gulf Breeze. It's not through Pensacola. That's the cut-through town. So it's kind of a unique area, which creates a really cool aspect, but also a sought-after aspect, kind of like a west of a trail in Sarasota. It's just unique in all the stuff it provides. So you have, I would just kind of to rattle off to finish on housing would be some popular neighborhoods. You have Grand Point, you have Tiger Point, you have North Cliff. But basically, in my mind, with Gulf Breeze, you could figure out a version for yourself and your family. But do note that because any area that is this like a smaller radius, only 7,000 residents, then at points this price ranges can creep because of the exclusivity factor. Okay, now I want to talk about the school ratings in Gulf Breeze, Florida. So again, similar pattern here. You have highly rated overall. Santa Rosa County basically compiles 3 school districts in one, through elementary through high school, and they're all generally highly rated. So that's another nice little perk of this. My wife loved her time there. She's very fond of the memories. She just went to high school at Gulf Breeze High, but she's very fond of the memories there. So it was a very kind of laid-back community in all aspects, and all the kids kind of live in the district. But preschool through daycare, you have a bunch of options. So there's over 15 options of preschool through daycare. So that's kind of nice. And then primary-wise, you have Oriole, Gulf Breeze, and Woodlawn. Again, I checked out the ratings, all generally high. And then private school, you have Good Shepherd, you have St. Paul, so you have some options there. But again, this is kind of a little bit repetitive. It's on this list anyway, so we know it's highly rated. But I would say your public school-wise, you wouldn't, it'd be hard to go wrong in Gulf Breeze. All right, and finally for Gulf Breeze, Florida, let's talk safety. So simply enough, the statistics of Gulf Breeze, this city ranks 55% safer than the average U.S. city. Should be good all in this place. And we are now going to move on to number 5, our 5th and final city I would consider as one of the best places to live in Florida for families. Okay, number 5 in our list of some of the best places in the entire state of Florida to live for families, Winter Springs. So Winter Springs is going to give you your Orlando, Florida option. Suburb of Orlando, located in Seminole County, 36,000 people, just 25 miles from downtown Orlando, 1 hour from the Atlantic coast. Interesting location there. It's 2 hours from Sarasota, hour and a half from Tampa. And this is a place that's known for being a great place for both professionals and families, and it's a suburban community that is also nature-centric. Overall, very interesting option. Okay, let's talk quality of life in Winter Springs, Florida. So in my mind, this town did a great job of kind of building a suburban area but in a very large metro, but keeping kind of the focus on keeping it beautiful and maintained. So a couple notables. You have Central Winds Park by Lake Jessup, features baseball fields and dog parks and things like that. You have the event-wise, you have the Winter Springs Festival of Arts, which takes place in October. It's been running for more than a decade. You also have the Park Avenue Shopping District, which has your normal restaurants and your shops and your boutiques, and you have all this kind of stuff, live performances and that kind of thing. And then Orlando as a whole, like a lot of people end up there because of like the overall area. So you have, I mentioned it's the close proximity in downtown Orlando, but obviously the theme parks. You have the Orlando Magic. You have a myriad of things that would relate to living in a large city. So Winter Springs offers that interesting option of like abundant job surroundings, a large metro, a city. But Winter Springs as an offshoot gives you some tranquility in addition to that. So I think the quality of life is interesting for that respect, and I think it'd be an overall pretty interesting option. Okay, housing-wise, Winter Spring provides, because of the size of the area and all that, it provides an array of different options. You have master plan, you have mature communities that you can buy resale in, varying different price points. Some notables I'll just mention here so we don't belabor it is Bear Creek Estates would be like your $750K up option. You have Barrington Estates, which would be like your under $750 but maybe $500K. You have Foxmore that would be your under $500K option, but there's a lot of different neighborhoods, so it's kind of navigating that market. But in my mind, if it would fit most families if you're trying to figure it out in some aspect. And then depending on the community, you're gonna have like I said, like commoditized amenities related to the community. That's gonna world-class pools. You're gonna have dog parks, tot lots. You're gonna have all this kind of stuff that we mentioned previously. And then depending on the community, if you get a mature enough community, then maybe you can stay out of the CDD fee related thing because of the maturity of it aging out or being different in that respect. But for the most part, master plan is going to have some of that stuff. So that's kind of, that'll sum up the housing here, but it shouldn't be super hard to find in a city this size. So let's move on to schools. Okay, schools in Winter Springs, Florida. So this is the one on the list that, I kind of struggled with it because I think Winter Springs is a very interesting option for solving the Orlando problem. There's a lot of little offshoots of like Seminole and Orange County, but the schools in this one, the public schools, aren't as high, just candidly. So you have Rainbow, Indian Trails, and Winter Springs High. And it was kind of a mix, so that's something to really think about in this area. In those major cities, it's going to be tough because you're going to have that's why I was saying earlier that the elementary through high school thing's interesting, because a lot of these large cities, you can find really nice elementary schools. But what if the middle school is like a 4 out of 10? So it's something to really think about there. So I would look at that and maybe like charter or something like that. Or, ratings are what they are, right? So it might not be super relevant to your individual search. So I will mention that on schools. And then finally, safety. So safety in Winter Springs, interesting enough, is 70% safer than the average US city for that zip code. So you should be all set there. All in all, I think number 5, Winter Springs, I think in my opinion, is an interesting option for the Orlando Metro. And let's conclude. Okay, so that does it for this video on some of my favorite places to live for families in Florida. I hope it added you value. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe if you did. Please hit the thumbs up. Make sure you check out some other videos we'll put here. And finally, if I can help you in any way, please check out my contact information here. Check it out in the description below. Thank you so much for watching again, and we will see you on the next one.